You know, when it's convenient to be illogical, I love how easy that people that try to argue a lack of knowledge end up going ahead and wanting to put their 2 cents in, but don't want to acknowledge what's glaring them right in the face, you know? And I feel like that ends up being caused by too many people never having strict and harsh enforcement of having to use critical thinking on a constant basis. Yes, I understand that's a result of abuse. All right? But imagine having to be the one to point out the hole in everyone's logic that's been trying to gaslight me. All right? And that is when I argue about the semantics about court. All right? Like me wanting to go in front of a judge. Like me even trying to antagonize to end up being placed in front of a judge. The reason why is because there's a factor that there are a lot of people with a lot of money that they don't want to get X in front of a judge. And you know what that is? When the car accident ended up happening in December of 2022. All right? I ended up getting hit by a person that was doing 50 and a 30. All right? Now, another thing that's glaring right in front of numerous different companies' faces, as well as numerous different individuals' faces, because for once, the companies and the individuals, have a vested interest for this not to reach court. All right? So, person ends up hitting into me doing 50 and a 30. All right? Now, there was something about my Scion. All right? And that was the factor that it was one of the cars that was on the recall list of the Takata airbag. All right? Now, here's the thing. I had to go ahead and bring the car to the, approved of dealer to get the issue resolved. Completely at Toyota's expense. All right? So I bring it to Mike Johnson's Toyota in Hickory. Now, keep in mind, the two people that I have with me there while I'm getting the situation resolved is my ex, who wanted to try to drag things along in court, and their child's biological father. All right? Now, when the accident ended up happening, there was something interesting about the situation. So the person hit into me doing 50 and a 30, all right, ended up smashing in the entire front end, all right? So there was enough impact to go ahead and smash in the front right, headlight, crushing in to the point where the side of the metal was pushing up against the side of the radiator fluid reservoir. All right. Now, how much force and velocity that it takes to do that, and knowing the factor that it takes between 10 to 12 miles per hour as far as velocity of the other vehicle, all right, going and coming into me head on, all right, the factor that he was doing 50 and a 30, the amount of damage that it ended up doing, why didn't the airbag deploy? All right, so the factor that the airbag didn't deploy, that means either A, the airbag that was replaced, by Mike Johnson's Toyota in Hickory, North Carolina, was defective, and they lied to Toyota to try to write off the expense of a defective airbag, having me potentially die. All right? Now, here's the thing. One of the people with me was the beneficiary of life insurance policy should something happen to me. All right. So there's plenty of opportunity, if, financially that insurance policy would pay out. But alas, I am alive. All right. So the attempt of trying to cash, a life insurance policy on somebody that, ultimately they may have had to go ahead and learn that I'm alive, because of, ultimately with a whole investigation that comes along with attempting to kill somebody, that's pretty messy, and at that point, Mike Johnson's Toyota has to go ahead and answer, because can't forget about Rooster Bush either, where the car was bought. All right. Ultimately, fault could end up going ahead and lying on Rooster Bush in Lenore, North Carolina, Mike Johnson's Toyota in Hickory, North Carolina, for going ahead and putting in a defective airbag, despite the fact that with the recall, you were supposed to be taking out a defective airbag, not taking the airbag as a whole out. All right. So the car itself ended up going ahead and showing, despite the impact made, the fact that the airbag didn't deploy. So because of the airbag not deploying, it was either a defective part, which Toyota was fitting the bill to go ahead and replace, and Mike Johnson might have failed to do that, or Mike Johnson might have deliberately put in a defective airbag, on behest of somebody else to try to collect on a life insurance policy, and ultimately, this could end up costing Rooster Bush a lot of money. This could end up costing Mike Johnson's Toyota a lot of money. This could end up going ahead and costing my ex's lawyers quite a bit of money, because ultimately, when you try to defend somebody in court, and then after you go and try to defend why, what you were doing wasn't abusive, you were just trying to, teach them a difference in mindset, whatever excuse you end up going ahead and using. It doesn't look good if after having to go ahead and defend somebody that you just drug through a very long and very involved divorce and custody battle, that the airbag in their vehicle didn't deploy, and ultimately, if the person that was driving the vehicle would have ended up going ahead and doing that to try to kill, the other person, ultimately the first thing that I'd end up thinking, if I was somebody with the knowledge of a defective airbag, that wanted to go ahead and see the other person die, oh wait, didn't I put that airbag that's not going to deploy? Let me go ahead and not jump behind the, the car, the wheel of this vehicle ever. So it's a lot of suspicious circumstances that having that conversation specifically, I don't think there's a judge, jury, or even anybody, sitting in the benches of the courtroom that's not going to go ahead and see the point of. So you're arguing about money and ultimately trying to go ahead and blame the person that was the victim, because there was a concerted effort to try to kill the victim. And now the people that went to try to kill the victim are now mad about the factor that the victim is still alive. So you wanted to perpetuate having the victim abused and try to prevent their ability to move forward or get out of your triangulation, because they know too much because you tried to fucking kill them, and ultimately you're mad and trying to say and threaten that you're going to have them locked up, when meantime you're the ones who, by video evidence of, different banks, different insurance companies, law enforcement who went to go, do due diligence, which, by the way, with their due diligence, I am absolutely sure, that the very decorated and, collective, experience of, the Caldwell County Police Department, that, the first thing that they would end up going ahead and raising, which would end up eliminating me as a suspect for anything, would be, isn't it suspicious that this person that was the victim of a smear campaign now ended up in that accident that somebody that was, hearing from the rumor mill, or the gossip mill, heard that they're a drunk driver, when the reality is, the factor that they weren't drunk, first off. Second off, that, their airbag didn't deploy, So that changes into a whole, hey, this is an issue that, insurance may or may not be able to go ahead and fix. And this is now turned into, congratulations, you have attempted homicide. And now you're trying to get away with profiting off of it. Okay. So, semantics that don't get thought of is like, for example, Mike Johnson's Toyota. By going ahead and accepting the job of replacing that Takata airbag, ultimately that would mean the entirety of your dealership would have been used in the facilitation of commissioning of a crime. So, ultimately the state of North Carolina could go ahead and, grab up your dealership and your entire inventory, audit the hell out of and investigate federally, the entirety of your staff, because ultimately, using a location as a, location of a crime, or the organization of a crime, or organization of a potential crime, makes that whole place, free game, because that location was used in the facilitation of a crime. So, for law enforcement that are going ahead and talking about the factor that, you're not funded enough, and that ultimately we need patriotic decisions and everything, and, American exceptionalism, capitalism. Mike Johnson's Toyota actually engaged in the facilitation of the commissioning of a crime. So that means technically if you go ahead and investigate them for fraud and racketeering, you could just go ahead and take their entire inventory. Hell, what loss to me? Ultimately, I was the person that was attempted to be killed, So, what happened to them, Now that, what was it? Shoddy workmanship? Was it, defective part from Toyota? Was it, negligence to do the job but still collecting the money? I'm curious what led to this.